Tell Ron where they're at.
Are you looking for a motion to go back into open session at 7:21?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Tivoli.
Aye.
Trustee Christ.
Aye.
Mayor Rabbit.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to trustee business. Trustee Kreis.
In everyone's packet, you have the intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning for the 147th Street project, along with the scope of the work from Tony Mano. The scope, we went, they did a really nice job. I think I only had a couple amendments to it. And this is how it will unfold once the intergovernmental agreement is executed. So I'd be asking for execution next week of that agreement. Tony has also reached out to IDOT to set up a kickoff meeting, which will consist of CMAP, IDOT, Active Transportation Alliance, and Center for Neighborhood Technology. And we will be forming a steering committee. So, steering committee folks who are intimately aware of these projects will have another meeting. But does anybody have a problem with that next week? This is gonna be awesome. I just think again, because it's collaboration of so many different agencies and entities. Okay, so that'll be on the agenda for execution next week. The US EPA grant, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency approved proceeding with the phase 1 for the Malachy property on 147th Street next to Mr. Severine. I sent him the access agreement, asked him to execute it and get it back to us. That took, US EPA usually approves them very quickly. This took about 6 weeks. But I had been in contact with Mr. Malachy, and he did want to go forward with the phase 1. Demolition recommendation from the building department. I gave you the two addresses, 516 Holman and 14944 Kildare. They're both in terrible condition. This recommendation came from Skip Scrobutton. I believe that's how you pronounce Skip's last name. And I would encourage everybody to look at those properties. I also emailed the properties to the land bank. My thought was they are in such deplorable condition, and from the emails that I received from Skip, they can't sell them. And I need to look at the taxes. They are actually prime for demolition. My thought was, if we could have the land bank reach out to the realtors and have them donated to the land bank, then we could proceed with demolition. It would make things a lot easier, because then we don't have to go through the legal notification. We could have the Cook County Sheriff come in, do the demos. We have the Illinois Housing Development Authority grant money to do the asbestos testing and abatement and pay for the dumpsters. So I'm still trying to work out that piece.
So we still have money from IDA?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of money from IDA until August. Okay?
Oh, okay,
That grant goes until August.
okay.
So I need to reach back out to Ross, because either Ross Staley or myself, one of us needs to call the realtors and tell them if we proceed with demolition, there's going to be a lien placed on that property by the Cook County Sheriff for the demolition costs, and they're going to be responsible for it. So do they want that, or do they just, the lien would probably be worth, the amount of the lien for the demolition is probably going to be more than what the house is worth right now. So, we will incur some legal costs if we have to go forward with the notification. That is not covered under the IDA grant like we did with the other properties. So anybody have any thoughts?
Try to get them going.
I will, I'll work on that, but if not, we're gonna have to start the legal process. They are in, I mean, I got out and I walked to the properties and they are in horrible condition. I don't know if,
Documented?
they're vacant, they've been
Oh, I
vacant.
know, we got the documentation on it.
Oh, they've got, Skip started with taking their, he sent me all kinds of pictures, and he's been he's ticketed them, and I don't know if fire or police are aware of those, but they're in terrible condition, just terrible. Rain Ready Steering Committee meets tomorrow at 10 a.m., and we have a lot on our agenda again. And then following that, we have our first Complete Streets Implementation Steering Committee meeting at 12:30 p.m. So again, when we passed the Complete Streets policy, Leslie Deemster said they had funding for implementation, and she reached out to me. And the first implementation meeting is tomorrow. And that's all I have.
Okay. Trustee Ivan?
Thank you, Mayor. I sent out information about the replacement of our existing high ranger, which is basically the bucket that goes up and down to trim trees and stuff, with the purchase price in there and everything. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the high ranger, because it was in this year's budget.
We've been talking about this for how many years? Right, Dan? 4 years, 5
It was
years?
covered in the budget that we just passed.
Yes. So, all right, well then I would like to have that on the agenda to purchase it next week. I also sent out the landscaping contract. It's changed from last year, and there was also a bidding price in there for the banning, or the houses that we take over and cut the grass. They did it the year before, I guess, where we had those issues last year with where we were overcutting the property. I'd like to see them also get the award for that as well, for that properties, as well as the regular landscaping contract.
Public Works or Building Department going to be overseeing that, for the vacant houses?
The vacant houses would always be Public Works. I mean, Building
Well,
Department.
then maybe,
Maybe you want to get some
maybe Building
input?
Department should make the recommendation.
Okay.
And I think there might be also an issue that, I don't know if we handle the cutting in compliance with the ordinance,
No, we didn't.
right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what happened last year,
Well,
because they.
I don't, it has to go over, it has to be 8 inches or higher. I don't know if we ever do that. So I mean,
It had to be higher over 8 inches, it had to be a ticket issued first
Mhm.
to notify the property owner that they better cut the grass or we'll do it. We
Right.
didn't follow that last year.
and maybe before we award something, we better get this straight.
Well, this company did it the year before, which I believe they did.
But I don't know if we were in compliance then.
Again, we wouldn't have been in compliance with our ordinance.
The cutting's not a problem. It's the process inside of keeping track of it and the billing of it and all that.
Oh, within the building part.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, process needs to be set up on that.
I
Okay,
agree
then.
with Don, we probably need to have the new building superintendent's input on this, he might have some ideas.
Well, Skip has got an experience in it too, from prior jobs.
So can we award the landscaping and then?
That's what I'd like to do that.
We'll just award the landscaping and then we'll try to get some more information on the homes.
Okay. The building department will manage it, then is what we're saying. But Public Works came up with the contracts last year too, for all the different vendors that we submitted, and we went with the cheapest one. That turned out to be really expensive for cutting those properties, so.
Or, you know what? Okay.
So.
I mean, it's up to the building department, and I'm not the building department, trust me.
Okay,
I'm
no,
just-
I mean, you want the building?
It got expensive because it was poor communication between the vendor and
The village.
the village. The bottom line is that we had told, you know, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse because I still think voice is pretty expensive. And I think there's other people out there who would do it for less money. And I think if we had adequate communication to say, here's the process, which we don't even know what the process is right now, the one thing. But if we said to them, you know, we don't want you cutting every week, we want you cutting as needed, then I think we could, in my opinion, I think we should put that out for bid. And when we figure out what the process is gonna be. But basically, the vendor that was last year was just told, here, you just cut them you know, whatever you think, and nobody was really supervising them. This year, I won't be able to be profit, but it's up to the building department ultimately, and I will beat a dead horse again, but I still think that $90 for the first cut at 63 per is fairly expensive. Like maybe, you know, I think we would put it out for bid with the stipulations. Here's the stipulations, you cut it when we tell you to, don't cut it every week, you know? But that's what happened last year.
Perhaps that price will go up though.
It would, how much?
This is expensive. I can tell you, I have a service that cuts my grass every week, and I pay $27 a week, and I have a big yard. I have a big yard.
All right, well, either way, grass cutting season is coming
Yeah.
on super quick here, so they have to move pretty fast, so.
Well, Bill
Can we have
starts
them-
Monday.
Yeah, can we have him,
Yes.
that be one of his number ones?
Yes,
I'm assuming he's got quite a few.
yes. He's got so many number ones, he's, yeah.
Okay.
There's no number twos.
No.
So I want to have the landscaping contract added to my agenda for next week. Now, the bus shelter contract, that's gone through all the lawyers, has come back. I got the 33 and a third, I think, percent raise from the original 20% for that contract. So I'd like to add that to the agenda unless someone has questions about that as well. My ultimate goal with the bus contract, the bus shelter contract, is to add, or double basically the amount of shelters that we have. Currently we have 5, so I'd like to add 5 more in the strategic places where we have a lot of traffic, with people standing and stuff like that. Especially like in front of the village green and stuff like that. So that should double the revenue and add another 13%, I guess, with the increased rate. So I'm thinking it's like $5 or $6 grand, roughly, would be my guess, as a potential revenue source. So I'd like to add that then to my agenda for next week as well. Now, a resident sent us a letter proposing an ordinance to provide a stenographer to record the village meeting. I don't know, I thought, since he presented it to me, I thought I presented to the board to see what your guys' feedback would be on that. That's something we're interested in, or do we want to talk about it or think about it at all, or?
I don't know if there's, I guess I don't know if there's a need for it. I mean, if Chris was looking at the tape and said, hey, you know, in the minutes, this whole section isn't in here, why is that? But that hasn't been brought to our attention that we missed anything pertinent. And if we don't miss anything pertinent, I think it's a waste of money to hire not,
So you think it'd be
to me. Now,
I also think it's very expensive.
Well,
I
yeah.
think we're gonna get a stenographer very cheap.
No.
I don't know, that's something we can look into, I guess, or investigate what is the actual cost or what would be involved.
We keep a digital auto recording, why can't we just put that on the website like other towns, but they have an archive of digital recording, audio recording of the meeting.
Well, we could do that as well.
That would seem to be the most logical thing to do. And we could probably do that very quickly, right?
I believe so.
And just take the digital recorder and plug it in the computer and download it to a file.
Can I ask a question? Where's the digital recorder? What are you playing?
Next to
That tape recorder? Well, that's a great idea to put it on the website, but my concern is that not all of you speak into the microphones real well all the time. And the problem is, if you were to even go back and listen to some of Al's YouTube videos that are on the computer, the audio is not that good. So my concern is that if we're going to rely on the digital recordings, if the microphones aren't plugged into an actual audio recording system that provides a better quality, I think just getting it off of whether it's a tape recorder on the desk or, you know, a camera, the
Well,
recording's not gonna be that good.
We do a digital recording right now. It's just, it hasn't been cleaned up and everything, and we've lost the personnel to actually how to download the information. I talked to our IT department last week about it, And he said he was gonna look into it for me to find out if we need an IP address, which seems to be the solution to everything, for the IT technical problems. And whether or not then we could access the recorder that we currently have via this IP address. So, I mean, if you want, I could monitor their work with that
That's
IT
the system in
department.
in the cabinet there, that's
Yeah.
the microphone, which she
Yeah,
said.
which we just hooked up directly to it. Right now, we have some kind of distortion effect in the recordings too. I don't know if you look at the device in there, there's a monitor that, you know, tells you with the different lights on it, you know, whether or not you got the tone quality is correct. So that would have to be adjusted as well. So there'd be two devices that we physically have to have somebody look at. So I could investigate that if you want, to see if we can get an official recording that way.
I think that might be the best way for us to go.
And especially if we do get some sort of big Comcast to agree some years to let us do record and put that on something public access, that would be the best way to do it, to invest money into that rather than through stenography, you know? Right, because we would
Yeah, but that's like
need-
$28,000
Yeah,
according to
well,
Comcast.
you know, I just wonder next time the franchising agreement comes up, if we should just talk to them about it, you know? I think, you know, that might knock on, when they knock on our door next time, maybe we would just say, hey, what happened here? You know, the sad part about this is PEG. We pay PEG fees. The taxpayers pay PEG fees on their phone. Now, that's supposed to go to them to provide public access programs.
That provides a channel, not the equipment here to do it.
Well, it's supposed to provide help for everything, as I understand it.
Well, we've been hearing this for a long time. We've been paying for this access channel
Forever.
forever.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's on our current bill.
Yeah, PEG fees are,
PEG fees?
yeah.
Because
The village gets PEG fees.
when I investigated it, the PEG fees stopped like 4 or 5 years ago or longer. That,
Okay, well, then I had to check.
and there's something like, we got like $9,000 that was set aside, and then we stopped, the revenue stream stopped coming in. And unless Comcast is rolling all the money into one payment, according to our accounts and stuff like that, that's all that's
You guys
on.
Maggie?
Yes, that's what I talked to.
I understand that Brown High School has quite the broadcasting studio and equipment.
Yes, they do. It's a beautiful, beautiful setup.
And have you talked?
But they
to
all
them?
go, yeah, they go through YouTube. Everything is broadcast through their YouTube channel. And they don't have a fiber optic. Well, no, I should take that back. They have a fiber optic cable that is run to the school for them to download everything through YouTube. But there is no Comcast channel devoted to Brevard High School. Because that's a different scenario. Their internet access is through fiber optic. Not, for us, if we wanted to broadcast live, it would be through fiber optic, video sent directly through it. So it's a different scenario.
Well, the point is, they have the equipment, and they might even be willing to send the class for every meeting to do the legwork, but then how do we get it to our channel?
If we went the fiber optic channel way, we could broadcast live through channel 4, I think it is. And that would be in Comcast and AT&T and WOW, wherever that is in Midlothian. And that'd be one way we could do it. Or we could record it and then put it on YouTube. And then if anybody wanted to access, they would have to use that internet access to go through YouTube.
Permission to speak really quick. You can actually take any video to the public access channel, the channel 19, rather than the channel 4 that you are correct that a direct
Yeah,
connect.
we can.
But you can, if you wish to simply record it, and then the next day it's the Homewood office, in which you would simply need to deliver, yes, the video to them, and they would put it up, and you'd have to make arrangements with them as to the schedule. And that's dependent, they already have a pretty tight schedule, but that option is available as well. If you can't afford to flip the switch on channel 4, you do at channel 19.
So that would be another alternative, where we could have a YouTube channel and physically take the recordings from whatever Bremen High School would do that. Have we ever done like agreements with schools or something like that to?
An intergovernmental agreement isn't hard to write up at all.
Oh, so that's what it would be then?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, well, that's something we can look into as well.
We could just meet the brother. We could just meet the brother.
Well, they do have a nice studio.
We'd have to post it.
Oh.
So are you gonna take the lead on this?
Yes, I have started talking to the high school about that as well. I'm also, well, I'll lead into that one. Okay, that's something I can look into. Another thing is when I started working on the RFP for HR, I wanted to find out how do I file this in our filing system. And she's giggling over here. I kind of got that same response from some of the personnel in the office. So I kind of started talking to them about it, and I guess when we did the remodeling of here, we moved the cabinets around and we moved the files around, but the job again was never completed. So I don't know how bad our filing system is. Okay, you know, there's a lot of innuendos about how bad it is. So I don't know if we should, I don't know, put something together to investigate it and see if it is an issue or not, or if we need to straighten it out or figure out our filing system. But either way, it was like, okay, how do I file this RFP? And what should I include in our filing? There was no, you know, process or procedure that anybody could, you know, definitely say, Carl, this is how we do it. So I don't want to take that job on as well.
It's very difficult to locate anything here.
Yeah, so I don't know if we should.
Remember we talked before about the documents.
Yeah, because we were talking about
Digitizing.
relocating some of the documents to
So we're going
the
to
storage.
digitize it.
We would
Yeah.
have
So that would solve the whole problem, but we sort of dropped that on, and a lot of the others have gotten away. I think we should restart that with Impact and see what they can do. It'll probably give us a heart attack when we give us the price, but I mean, at least it's worth looking at, you know, the benefits of it are long-term, and it might give us more space for our office too. So we have to pick that up again. Did the person that you talked to think that the filing was a problem, or did they just say that it just sort of goes?
Well, I talked to multiple people and I got different, well, I should say, consistent stories on the inconsistency of how we use our filing system. So it wasn't like, okay, does the building department file the same way as our
Okay,
ordinances?
okay.
As if that's all, it didn't seem like it was all the same, which I would think filing would be the same technique no matter what it is.
And that's the best argument for digitizing our documents, for sure. That's,
Well, yeah, as long as you set a rule and
right,
you follow
That's-
the rule.
Well, yeah, but that's number one,
Yeah.
for sure.
So,
I would say we should go start that process again and see what happens. The digitizing process, what everything we heard about it, I think, Carl, was positive. And everything, you know, being able to track documents, workflow, you know, trying to be tracking what stage a certain thing is at, you know, a certain process. It's everything, you know, time stamping, things we talked about before, and I think we should look at that again. But like I said, they'll probably give us a heart attack with the price because, you know, basically we have a software engineer, you know, put the code in for what we want. But
well, if you want, we could like possibly roll this into the technology committee as one of their objectives. As a possibility.
okay,
Or the investigation maybe.
well, you could, I think I would appreciate that, but remember the number one thing is the human element. You may think it's a great idea, but we have to sell it to our people who are actually doing this, you know,
That's what
department heads
they're
and other
paid
people. That's the biggest thing, when we talked about the timekeeping system, the biggest issue was, well, that didn't seem to be something that they were in favor of, you know, as far as technology.
So if we told our people that we want to get organized on how we file things, do you think you would have pushback?
Okay, I'm just saying, you know, they are in charge of what they do for their department, so you have to sell them, and you don't even tell them anything.
Oh, I can ask them.
Yes,
Maybe-
yes, I mean,
okay, sure.
You can see if there's a problem.
Yeah, that's okay.
Step outside.
I would think that'd be part of the process to
Okay.
determine the problem is to ask them.
Right, investigating the issue.
Yeah, maybe there's a hidden filing system that, and I asked the wrong person. I mean, there's always that possibility. Maybe there's only one unique person that knows how everything's filed.
We can call Gladys.
There we go.
Gladys is probably the person who knew where everything was at.
Yeah, and I know where she lives, so I can walk down to her house and talk to her if need be.
Okay, so
Okay.
you're going to look into that, just so that this doesn't,
Well, I will keep that on my
Yes.
agenda, but I don't want to start an investigation of looking on
okay.
how to file through the filing system.
No, I know we all have a lot on our plate, but I don't want it to, it's
I
gotta stay
I
on
will,
somebody's
yeah.
radar,
I'll
okay?
keep that on my radar.
Okay.
So, every couple of months I'll bring it up again. Oh, look at this. All right, the other thing we talked about was the technology committee. We brought that up a couple weeks ago. So I put together a rough draft of how I see it initially working. I don't know if you guys have any input into the stuff I put together. Of course, I just presented to the technology committee that we're gonna have hopefully a meeting on 4/14 at 7 o'clock. Have some people show up and hopefully actually form a committee. I've never formed a committee or seen anywhere.
So what you're actually gonna have is just a meeting, a get-together of
Yes.
potential committee members.
Yes.
Talk, and then bring the potential committee members to the board. for
Yes.
approval.
And then I thought maybe keeping the size, kind of not, like 12 or 13 people, but more of a direct type of committee, smaller, like 5 or 6, and where they would be like the heads of the different areas that we want to pursue.
Have you gotten any feedback from anyone that would plan on attending this meeting?
About 8 people so far. So, and some of them are technology giants, as I would say, people that I've worked with that I didn't realize I worked with too, in the technology industry. So I have high hopes for this.
Is there a process to interface, as we say, with Revere? On the technology issues, are you including Revere in this process?
Revere, our current
Yes.
IT member.
Or a, let's say, IT contractor, is that something that you feel is important to
Oh, yeah.
include them in the loop?
Yeah. Again, I spent some time with our IT vendor at the Fire Station 2, where he was fixing the IP address problem for a Comcast switch, which brought down the phones on, I think it was Tuesday. So I was talking to him about different things like reporting, like how many problems that Village of Midlothian has with our IT stuff. Is there a way for us to get a report of some type? And what he was recommending was that they currently have a system where they monitor tickets, but not all tickets go into the system. So that was one of the things he mentioned to me that I should mention to the department heads, that all tickets, all problems should be reported through our ticketing system that they have in place. So that way they can better manage their resources to resolve our problems in the IT issues. And we also talked about other things that he does support for that he was going to get back to me, like our email. I guess we are charged a price for every email address. And we have email addresses for people that no longer work here that we still currently have active. So he was supposed to get a list of email clients that were for persons that we have emails for to me.
How much do we charge per email?
It's a small amount. I don't remember. It was like less than 25 cents or $1 or whatever it was. But I don't know how many we have. I mean, if it's 10, it's only $10. But if
My
it's
my
100,
question would be, if we still have email addresses set up, are these addresses getting email, and who's responding to them?
again, that would be a process to determine how bad the problem is.
We've not done a very good job of managing these things.
No, there's numerous things that we have not done a good job of managing the flow of information as we can tell. So again, that's stuff that I was talking to him about, which covers all the stuff that I wrote on it. Another weird problem that came up when I was looking at the bills today was that I had a stack of, the normal amount of bills that I got, and then I got a new stack of refunds that we are now issuing on the water bills. I guess we're going through some type of audit of the water bills and trying to determine, trying to straighten it out so that we can get rid of the outstanding balances.
Those are overpayments?
These are overpayments, and this is just the first, I've been told it's the first,
Duplicate payments, no
Stack.
payments.
and there's about
dormant
18
accounts.
of them. Accounts that were closed and we owe them money, and we did not refund the money when they closed the accounts. So, it's not significant dollars.
They're not past due, but we didn't refund the money when they closed their account.
And isn't there like a requirement
Is that
that,
right? Is that right? Is
This
that my
is
take
a
on it?
property that was taken over by somebody else. Account was closed, either we collected it one place and then also collected it somewhere else,
Okay.
or wrote it off, and there are actually credit balances that are sitting out on dormant accounts.
and some of these credit balances go back to 2010, so.
Yeah, they're old.
6 years of credit
I
balance,
think
but we
of
didn't try
the
to.
one aging that I gave, there was the amount of dormant amount of credits that were there, like $30,000 worth of credit that was sitting out there. So, but these were just misapplications, I would say, some of them, and some that were duplicate payments. So they're going through and cleaning up all of the accounts that are out there, not just the active ones. Okay. The dormant ones are ones that have a lot of balances that are due also, and they're going after.
Yeah. Do we just give up back then?
Well, in a typical system like this, I would think, I don't know, do we do an audit of the water billing at all? Is that, I mean, we do one for the bonds, we do one for, I guess, general stuff, the general ledger, right? But we've never done one for water. So maybe that might be something that we want to put in the back burner or think about, doing a regular audit of our water billing system, because a 10-year credit versus, I don't know how long the debits go back. Seems like maybe we should, write that off the books. It shouldn't stay on our books or in our water system for 10 years. That seems, really ridiculous. I think normal accounting practice is to write, stuff off like that. That where we can't get money and just, shouldn't be that far. We shouldn't have a big outstanding balance or positive one, I guess, here. We're keeping the money.
So could I ask real quick, when
Yeah.
Gladry does the audit of the village every year, they don't also audit the water bills or the
No.
water department?
They don't want to audit the water bill system.
Really? Okay.
So, just a devil's advocate thing, is there other systems that we don't audit as part of the audit that anyone is aware of?
What other systems?
I don't know, that's,
I
I was shocked to get these water bills things, credits that I had to
We
send.
have enterprise funds that are water and sewer. You could audit commuter lots, I guess, if you wanted to. That's the.
Well, how about the parking tickets and stuff like that, the police department, are they part of the audit when we audit them, or?
No, but, no.
Go to the general fund. Why wouldn't we audit?
Each individual account, you're asking each individual ticket, are you asking them something with something else, is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah, we write a ticket and then we receive the payment, is there a connection between the two saying that it's paid, or are there outstanding tickets for somebody that's, even though they paid it? Because that's some of the issues, I guess, that we're giving credits. And some of the debt was there was some issues too with mispayment entry, or payment entry being incorrect, where they did a transcription or reverse the digits or something. So instead of paying $83, it got done as 38 or something like that. So things like that, I mean, we don't do any kind of checking on that.
No, the payments are actually put on an Excel spreadsheet and actually transmitted, I think, to our collection agency in the Excel spreadsheet, so it should, and, they are responsible after that to try to reconcile whatever, but up until, how long, Jerry? How long do they have before they get the second title? On the property? 2 months, okay, and how long before they're submitted to collections?
Third.
Third, okay. So after that, they're responsible for everything.
Yeah, the
So-
collection company audits it after that, they take care of it.
Okay, so there was no reconciliation before we sent it to the creditors? There's no checks and balances to see if we made a mistake first before we do that?
Well, if they get an erroneous notice, a lot of times they'll knock on the door and say, hey.
And
They do it internal, I mean, they,
Yeah, internally, what we do, to the clerks, and then they send out the letter for hearing, and then there's a second, and then a third, so you'll receive a notice, and then it's.
so the police department has an internal process.
Right.
So there's a checks and balance
Yes.
system for the police department. So do we do not have that though for the water department, though, right?
No.
No.
No. Okay. So that is something that we should consider implementing at some point in time, that there is a checks and balances, make sure that the dollar amounts that they say they paid actually matches what was on the checks and what we've recorded in, was it
Well,
two different systems?
wait. When you're entering into locus, that's what they're entering. From the.
They balance
the
every
point of
day
sales,
what money
yeah.
they take in,
Yeah,
to
every
what
day.
gets posted.
Okay, so what's given to them is entered in the locus, but how does that get into the, this isn't the water billing system, isn't locus though?
Yes.
Yes,
It is? Okay.
and they balance their cash register every day.
Okay.
Now, does that absolutely mean that, that nobody did something wrong, but it's pretty close?
So does these credits then roll up into a general ledger account where it would show us that we got a positive flow into that account?
Yes.
So then,
so then why did this get catch it
Yeah.
6 years ago and say, where does this money
Yeah,
go?
well, okay, so here's the problem, we never, up until lately, we haven't had a push to balance the, general ledger account, from what we have in Locust to balance it to the general ledger account. We
Correct.
just took the raw figures and put it in there. Now Maggie wants us to make sure we take it from the front to the
Subsidiary
back.
account.
Right.
That's about what it amounts to.
so we haven't been balancing our general ledger accounts?
No, we balance our general ledger accounts, just not to the exact
Right.
of the water.
Right,
They were just taking a lump sum.
right.
But now, it's all tied to locus and it should run through. There were credits not given, there were postings not posted, so there was this arbitrary number sitting out there. So Maggie caught this, and that's when she's saying, at the end of the month, when we reconcile,
Right.
all the unobtainable credits out there should be posted, so there isn't this lump sum of, there's this $30,000 worth outstanding. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So Maggie is actually the one that caught this and has been working with Mike and the rest of the water department and the girls up front, so we have a better process. In the process, we're finding that there were mistakes back all the way to 2010 that we have to now fix.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing.
So we're working to put in a process and verification that
Correct.
the money going in and money coming out.
There
For the
will
water
be
billing
one,
system
yeah,
is correct.
that's in process, as well as going back through all of the old dormant accounts and collecting what we can get collected on the old balances that are due us. And in that process, they're finding there are credits that are due people on bills that have been paid twice on a dormant account.
So then the dormant accounts, are we gonna be writing them off our books then? And,
Yes.
okay. Good. I got one other thing here, which is probably a good thing. Joe and Jeff are working on another grant. It's called CDBG. They're doing a grant application that's due by April 22nd. And basically we have possibility of 10 new street segments that we're trying to get paved, probably in 2017. So they're working on getting cost estimates, and they're going to try to apply for about $400,000 to cover those. So this year and possibly next year, it looks like we'll be pretty actively resurfacing of a bunch of street segments throughout Midlothian. So that covers everything I got to say today. I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, trustee Gillis could not be here this evening. He did provide me with his proposed for the residential flood mitigation share cost pilot program guidelines. He asks that you review it. He's also, I believe, going to ask for approval of this next week and get it on the website so people can now get in line.
Well, I do have some concerns about this, and I'm gonna read it again, because it has to be very clear that in order for this to happen, there has to be a funding source.
It says many times. here,
It does, but
funds
I
available.
just, I'm gonna read it again, and if, what is it, House Bill, what is it, Gary, 4659, that would,
40, I got my phone.
if that happens, this, if it gets through the legislature, that I think would make this a reality. But I think it's good to have it
Through MWRD.
through MWRD, but it has to go through the state legislature. But to have this would be great, but we don't have a funding source. And these are the things that are identified in the rain ready plan, but we have to have a funding source. Very important.
I was gonna ask if the finance committee had gotten together and come up with an idea of how to fund this. That was my.
Well, we've talked about the rain fund. We've talked about, we're just not at that point. I mean,
Right.
we've talked about the rain fund. That would have nothing to do with the finance committee. I don't
It
think.
should,
at this
it
point.
should say if,
Yeah.
not when.
Yeah,
We really, they
Yeah.
should really change that word, because when may be never. I mean, that's just the way it is. You don't know for sure, especially with
yeah.
the way the state legislature is working, you know.
So I'm sure he will be more than happy to have your feedback on that. He also sent us a letter on behalf of Team Midlothian. He is asking that next Wednesday I will read the proclamation he has provided me, and we will proclaim April 18th, 2016, Midlothian Day in the village of Midlothian. And that's all I have for him. Trustee LaRue.
Yes, ma'am. I gave you all hard copies of all my agenda items. The first thing is, in preparation of the new fire engine coming, there was an inventory done of all of our fire hose, and unfortunately, we have a lot of racks and racks of fire hose pre-1987, early 80s, 1980s, not 1880s. I know we keep things a long time here, but not 80s. So I don't think it's very prudent to put 30-some-year-old fire hose on a brand new fire engine. So Deputy Chief Rita has gone out, got all kinds of bids from different vendors, and his recommendation would be, hold on, got it right here. Let's see what company was that. Good thing he's sitting right here. So Deputy Chief Rita's recommendation would be go with Air One equipment and using the All-American Supreme hose, which has been proven to be more reliable and
Get long-lasting use out of it, 30 years, I mean, as much as we take care of it.
So that quote comes out to be $7,370 to fully outfit the new engine and also begin to replace the old stock on the rack. And that'll be an annual process to try to continue to replace all that old stuff. So, do we have any questions? I mean, I'd
Is
actually.
that gonna be like a budget line item then every year?
It's under the equipment replacement, and since they did such a good job with the gas meter program, we're just leasing it. There was still enough money, I believe, in the equipment replacement line.
And this year's budget?
And 20, yeah, right, this is one we just passed, right? So we gotta do, cost for running the fire department, so, I mean, if we could, I could ask for approval tonight, make a special meeting.
You can?
We got any problems? I'm waiting for another week.
How much are we talking about?
$7,370.
And what percentage is that of your hoses? Or is that just for that truck?
That fully stocks the new engine and begins to replace the spare hoses on the back.
It's
Okay,
almost
so,
50 lengths of hose.
so how much is that of your hose stock you have that replaces?
Total?
Is it 1%, 2%,
No,
20?
Yeah, I'd say about 15 to 20% would be total stock. If we have 2 other engines, and then we usually have a rack full for if an engine breaks.
And then,
or
and then you
if
want
we-
to replace 20% of the stock then every
We haven't come
year?
up with a number per year, but yet we want to do an annual. They're working on a 5-year plan, and,
It doesn't necessarily have to, I mean, we're still pressure testing it every year, and right now it's still passing at 300 PSI. So it's not junk, it just recommends to start thinking about replacement, so we can come up with some different ways.
So is the new engine's pressure for these hoses, is it higher than the previous engine?
No,
Or
it's
the
just,
same, right?
over time, it's just wear and tear of the jacket from dragging it,
Oh, okay.
so it just eventually breaks. And we don't want it to break when you're inside.
You know, and again, I sent both of you grant that I found on SSMMA, and Marty, you already responded. Have you ever found grant money for any of this type of equipment replacement?
You can write it for that, but it's low tier. It's-
Okay.
They want to see the gear, so I always write for the big things, trucks, gear, because that's air
Ambulance.
packs
Ambulance.
and ambulances.
Yeah, okay.
You know, you mentioned that, I was on it for a while, I couldn't find anything to go in for police. Did you just get that, or was your research where you seen something?
No, I was
Go into
on,
with it, or?
I saw it on SSMMA's website, so I
Yeah,
just.
because when I went in, I didn't see anything for any police grants, that's why I was asking, I didn't know.
Okay, I just sent it for information
Okay.
for you to research,
I didn't know
okay?
if I was missing something, or. if
No,
it
I
wasn't
just sent it as a point of
Okay.
information. I
Yeah.
don't really need to be writing police grants.
Yeah, no, I didn't know.
Or fire grants, I'll let you take care of that.
Thanks.
It's a wonderful experience.
It
It's
really
just what
is.
Karen tells me.
It is.
No, that's-
Managing them is even better.
So.
So go ahead,
I will
Gary.
make a motion that we approve the, and there were several bids, so this wasn't the only company. I make a motion that we approve this purchase of, I can't say the total number of feet. It's a lot of fire hose, and the total, it's from Air One Equipment, using all American spring hose, and the total is $7,370. I make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee LaRue,
Aye.
trustee Kreis,
Aye.
trustee Ivan,
Aye.
trustee Kilby.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, another issue was that we're down a fire investigator, and firefighter paramedic Badger is requesting to take over that position. It will require 3 courses: fire and arson 1, fire and arson 2, and fire and arson 3. They're all held at Moreland Park, and the cost is a total of $1,450. So I could let the deputy chief really speak a little bit about it since he's here. It's very important that we have a fire investigator on our staff because
Just to have the proper training and background to be able to rely on as far as, because it's the fire chief's job by state law to investigate every fire in town. So he relies on outside investigators if he doesn't have his own. And it's becoming very slim. And people are starting to say, I'm gonna stop paying you, my guy, premium pay to go to Midlothian and investigate a fire. So it's good to kind of keep a couple guys, and he lives right over on the other side of Crestwood, so he's close. He's interested, young, and wants to learn, so I really think it's a good next step for somebody.
Can I just make a suggestion, which we did, Chief Kaufman, when you sent someone to, was command school?
Staff.
yes, it'll be covered under, he'll have to stay 3 years.
That's what I wanted to make sure, that,
Yes.
that he's not gonna leave, once he gets his
And if
training.
he does, it'll be reimbursed.
And we have that in writing.
Yep, you signed the agreement here.
Okay. Then I'm fine with it as long as we would get our money back.
Okay, so then I'm going to make a motion that we approve firefighter paramedic Badger to attend the 3 arson, fire and arson classes for a total of
1450.
14.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee LaRue,
Aye.
trustee Killily,
Aye.
trustee Ivan,
Aye.
trustee Kreis,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you. I also emailed you guys the email application that Attorney Gleason sent back. Just want to make sure no one had a problem with it. We want to get it on the website as soon as possible and start pushing out for volunteers. Okay. And then you're also given the permit application for fireworks for the 3rd of July, I believe it was.
That's a country club.
Yes. I was thinking that the timing was more important, but we can put that on next week's agenda. What else? CPC, Community Policing Committee, is meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the police department roll call room. And then I'd also like to announce that one of our Bremen High School's varsity baseball players won Athlete of the Week, Colin Walton. And he is now in the running for Athlete of the Month. And I'm asking people to go on to www.chicagotribune.com/suburbs/athletes and vote for him. It's a big deal for a school like Bremen to get named in the Tribune as any athlete in any sport. It's a big deal. And long story short is that if we have an athlete that wins Athlete of the Month, and they're running for Athlete of the Year, and if that happens, then there's some monetary bonuses through the school's coach program. So it's a cool thing. Where hasn't had an Athlete of the Week at Bremen in
5 years.
5 years. So
Yeah,
it's a big deal, and
you can vote every 12 hours.
it's only for a week.
Right, you can only vote for a week, but you can vote every 12 hours.
ChicagoTribune.com,
Tribune.
suburbs, athletes, and it's the South.
Do you want to push that out as a news item to the website?
Good. I think we should support Bremen, our school, as much as possible, and I think this is I'm a sports guy, and I think this is a good way to do it, through sports. I mean, not nothing against the music program, or I was at a high school band for many years, or, well, 4 years I was there.
So, yeah, send it to Nicole.
Okay. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Gary, did you want to
Oh, yeah,
take care
I'm
of Trustee Moskow's
Yes,
while
the
you're
only thing that
out?
Trustee Moskowitz had on his agenda was the approval of hiring a replacement CSO for CSO Kaufman left to another department, got a gig there, so we're in need of a replacement CSO. So I guess we'll have it, we talked about it, Trustee Moskowitz talked about it last meeting. Starts out at $12 an hour, after probation period and training, goes to 14. We'll have that on agenda next week. Might want to have that. Anybody have a problem with voting today? Okay. So then, in place of Trustee Moskowitz, I will make the motion that you guys name.
After next week, okay.
All right. I got the email here somewhere.
CSO Simonson?
Patrick Simpson.
Simpson?
I'll second it as soon as he says his name.
Order.
S-I-E-N-S-E-N.
I wasn't prepared.
Here, you want it?
I got it here somewhere. Sure. I go here. Let's see. The gentleman's name is Patrick Simpson. He lives in Homewood. He currently works part-time for Chicago Heights Police Department as a black officer. So Chief Kaufman has recommended him to become our new CSO. So I will make a motion that we hire Patrick Simpson as our new police officer CSO, Police Department CSO.
And I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee LaRue,
Aye.
trustee Ivan,
Aye.
trustee Killily,
Aye.
trustee Kreis,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Trustee Killily?
Okay, on the finance side, I talked to Treasurer Britton and I asked her about the new budget, since we just passed the old one, of course she was good to hear about that. And we we talked about the timeline, and it looks like the finance committee will get the 2017 budget to consider somewhere around the middle of May, as it's gonna turn out. Also, we talked about the annual treasurer's report, which we are, of course, behind because we had always waited for the audit to do the annual treasurer's report. Well, Treasurer Britton talked to the Cook County Treasurer and asked her what to do, and she said, well, they don't care about it, it's tied to an audit or not, do the best you can with it, you have the figures, and they just want it printed, and, they just want it printed for publication, and that will satisfy everybody's requirement, and that'll be it, so that's what Treasurer Britton's gonna do. And we talked also about the, trying to get all these little sub-funds paid out of one sweep account, sort of like, and that would be entered in locus. And Treasurer Britton was supposed to write a procedure for that, so we could incorporate it into the ordinance, I think we were intent on, and she just doesn't have the time. There's so many things she's correcting and cleaning up. She showed me one thing where the payroll accountant never balanced from Paylocity, and she has created a whole spreadsheet so that when it comes through, it all will balance and everything will tie out and cross-foot, and it's all done and over with, we don't have to worry about it. But she's doing all these type of things every day to try to correct things that were not done correctly in the past, or could have been done better in the past. So, we'll wait. She's got a lot of things on her plate, and what's more important is more important. Safety committee met when, Jean, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, okay, so, two things that the safety committee wants to bring to the board's attention are, one is, a better lighted street is better for the community basically because it provides better crime protection. A brighter street is a safer street. And one of the members brought to our attention that the trees are in a lot of areas, older areas, are actually so overgrown that they're actually touching each other. And when leaves are going to grow on them, that actually the street will actually block out light from the light poles. So I know that Public Works has a planned tree trimming, and also they respond to residents' complaints, but I'm wondering if we could ask them that they would devote more time to tree trimming in some areas, maybe make it more of a budget item, that they're going to have to spend more money, doing it, more man hours doing it, but it's apparently in some of the older sections over by my section, or also where Carl lives, those older sections, it's going to become a big problem, and it's going to make for dark streets. So if you're out at night, you're not quite as safe as we would like. So I would hope that, we could communicate to the Public Works, possibly, if that's okay with the board, that maybe they could make it more of a priority this year, if that's
Well,
possible.
maybe with the new High Ranger, they'll be able to get up and down quicker.
Well, that would probably
faster.
be good too, yeah, that wouldn't throw them out of the
That's one of the cost justifications for the,
And a big thing to the ComEd for coming out and replacing all of our,
yeah, exactly, they've upgraded the light bulbs now throughout the town, I don't know where they have.
I'm not really happy, so, I don't think they're finished yet,
No, they're not finished, they're still
but
working
by
on
us,
it. It's bright.
oh boy.
They're
Yeah,
really
it's very
bright.
bright. So it's like, it has, outlets trimming around it. But I can talk to Public Works about making it a priority around the lights to trim back all the branches that may interfere with it, casting the light down.
And once again, if residents see it and we don't, it's not because we're ignoring it, maybe we
Right,
just
right,
didn't see it.
Right.
Call us, let us know that this is a problem in their neighborhood.
But the village-owned lights, though, I don't think we have a program in place to replace our existing light bulbs with the new technology.
No.
So I don't know if you want him to think about budgeting it
Well,
for
here
next year.
again, the issue was, with that was, and I got involved with that a couple of years ago, was that we were told that the LEDs weren't ready for prime time, as they said. And, they wouldn't throw off enough light. Well, obviously now with the ComEd lights, that's not quite true. And, basically, there's two ways of running this, and one is that, how cost effective, how much light will that save us? How much electricity will that save us by putting the new LEDs in? How fast will we get paid back, for the cost of putting in the LEDs? And the other thing, if we didn't have the money, is there's such a thing as performance contracting, which another company will take the shot on that. They will put in the LEDs and get paid back from the savings in electricity for a certain amount of time and to recover their costs and also make a profit. And then the ball will be, they'll throw it to the village, who will basically reap the savings from the electricity savings from that standpoint too. The only thing that Jeff cautioned a couple of years ago when I talked to him was, he said, you gotta be careful with that if you do another company, because I brought up the performance contracting, and he said, you gotta make sure they're putting in a good light. They're not just putting a light in that's gonna be like, say, for 5 years, they're out of it, and then you have to replace all the lights again. So, that was his major concern. But I would say one of those two avenues is pretty good, because, the LEDs definitely throw off a lot of light. Before, that was his major concern, and Phil Petlak, I think, too, was saying right here that they weren't ready. Now they are. So maybe in your long list of things, Carl, you could ask Public Works to talk to Jeff and see if he can give us some input on that.
Okay.
I'd like to see some history on those lights that they put in. Clearly, they don't have lenses on them. And,
Oh, you need covers?
right,
Yeah.
Will
so,
they get damage from rocks?
I'm not so completely convinced that they're the way to go for the future. But they look real cheap. I watched them replace a few, and they look really, really cheap. So I'd hate to do all the metal holes and, like you said,
Right. Exactly. Let's have the justification.
Well, what we could do is use our existing light stack that we have and gradually replace them as over time with the new technology. I don't know how much we have in stock of existing light bulbs.
Number K is Public Works.
Okay.
But I mean, that, for the future, that's something to definitely look at. Number two with the safety committee was that when you're walking in along, especially at night, that you're taking your life in your hands if you're walking on a sidewalk, because the sidewalks, especially in the older areas, are in terrible condition. Not so much the newer areas, but a lot of the sidewalks in the older areas definitely could be 40, 50 years old, or there could be no sidewalks. So it's definitely a hazard. And we used to have the 50-50 program for the village, but that wasn't well used either at that point. There was very few residents who used the 50-50 sidewalk sharing at that point. Remember a few years ago, we had a grant, I guess, right, Karen, that we got that they replaced blocks with the sidewalk, but not the whole sidewalk. So I don't know if there's grants out there, I don't know, but I mean, we have to address the sidewalk thing pretty soon, because it's dangerous. I mean, if you're walking at night, and I can tell you for a fact, I was out there at night, I'm taking my life in my hands. I walk on the street most of the time, because I'm not walking down those sidewalks. It's dangerous. The issue is, I don't know if that violates any village building code, but, the bottom line is, a couple different things would be, if we're gonna mandate them to be replaced, who's gonna pay for it?
That's the big reason why we stopped doing, it's the real reason why we stopped doing the community walks after dark. Because there's a sidewalk and also there's no sidewalk,
That's right.
unless you know the area.
Or their sidewalks are going sideways, or cracked, or up, or whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we
very
had
dangerous.
someone, I don't think it was fractured, but severely sprained their ankle because they tripped on
Yes,
a bulging sidewalk at night, so.
yes.
We really need to put a sidewalk replacement program, or have an inventory done, which would be very time consuming, but have a plan in place to replace sidewalks, just like we do with streets. That would make the most
Yeah, I
sense.
know, sidewalks ours, are they theirs? Sidewalks are the owner of the property, or they're the village?
We were doing the 50-50, so they
So
have
they had
to
to
be
be
the,
So, you got a lot of issues. Who's gonna pay for this? Can we help people do it? is there a way of doing it all one time so we can get a better price for the homeowner, that everybody would get it done all at one time, and we'd have just one contractor do it so we could give them a better price? But I think that's got, the safety committee definitely, and myself too, I think we definitely have to look at this, because that's a hazard, it's not gonna get any better. It's gonna get worse. And it diminishes the value of the properties, it looks like heck, I mean, there's all sorts of bad things about it, so, you know, as a person who lives in one of those areas and actually gets dilapidated, you know, again, so my sidewalks are sort of bad, so, I mean, you know, I think we have to work on that, so. And I don't know who's supposed to take care of that. Who would be in charge of researching that? Sidewalk replacement program.
I would think we would have the building department take that one, because like you said,
Okay.
is it a violation of any of our
Yes.
codes not to maintain your sidewalks?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
why don't we try to get it over to the building department to
Okay.
have them?
and that might be number 2.
Mhm. Yeah,
On number 5 already, and number 2 anyway.
Okay, where am I? Civic Plus, we talked about,
I did call him.
yes, I know you called him, so I was gonna throw it right to you and say, what was the
I
result
had
of that?
Nicole coach me and I called Reese and I gave her a hard sell that we were seriously looking at another vendor if they didn't give us a free redesign, and she was supposed to get back to me and she hasn't, so I need to send her another email. She said she did not have the authority to make that decision. I'm thinking she did not get feedback yet, so I will send an email to Reese.
You know, the time to make a decision on this is fast approaching, because we have
Yes.
to renew by May.
Right.
So, you know, I didn't know, I know Carl talked about it last time, but I wanted to make sure the board was on board with contracting with Civic. We have another vendor, Revise, and Revise, we haven't checked out their references, but they do service a heck of a lot of municipalities. I think the figure was like 500 municipalities across the nation. Nicole didn't like the back end of it as much as Civic, but maybe it just takes getting used to. But I mean, the issue is, you know, part of the issue is that if Civic did not, if Civic didn't bend on this redesign issue, we wouldn't have, you know, the big issue with the redesign is not so much the website we have, but it isn't mobile or tablet friendly. And 50% of the inquiries on, you know, websites nowadays, as I understand, are mobile or tablets. So, I mean, we're pretty well handicapped there. And when we talked to her, Nicole talked to her about, they said, well, that's part of the redesign fee. And it's like saying, well, you know, you got a Model T and you want to put an automatic transmission in there. I mean, it's nuts, you know, that they would say, well, we have to pay for the redesign because it's supposed to be mobile friendly. That's just part of your infrastructure, guys. I mean, that's just part of that's, you know, standard operating procedure. That's what they said. They said in order to make it mobile friendly, we have to pay for the redesign. Because I was going to say, why do we have to get a redesign? I mean, the website isn't that terrible, you know. Oh, we have to pay for it to be mobile friendly. Well, okay, so here I am. If, as it stands right now, Civic Plus is $57, sorry, and Revise is $4,800 for the redesign. But the big thing is that the hosting Civic Plus is $3,000 a year, Revise is $1,800 a year. So over 5 years, if Civic Plus doesn't bend, $13,800 to Revise, $19,000 to Civic Plus. But so I know that's a big factor. You know, the other factor you have to factor into this is there's going to be, if we go to the new website, there's going to be training costs that, you know, we're going to have to pay, and it's going to not only be money given to the vendor, but also man hours for us. So, I don't know if the board,
It was conversion cost too.
yes, right.
And
it's the
I remember the man hours last time.
downloading to what we have from them to us, and also verifying that we got all the data on there. So Carl and Nicole have both recommended, I think, that we just stick with Civic, because the $6,000 is minuscule compared to the pain in the neck it's going to be to convert.
Yeah.
We won't tell some, we didn't tell some buses, but,
Hopefully they don't watch the
If we could
video.
get the posting costs down from 3,000,
Yes.
get their posting costs down to
Well,
3,000, that would be the better long-term
yeah, that would
solution.
be, right, and I think that would be something that Karen, if they don't say
I'm
yes on the
gonna email
redesign, that you may ask them, well, can they give us a better deal if we sign a longer-term, 3-year contract on the hosting, maybe, that would, anything we can get. Newsletter, we now apparently have the capability of producing a newsletter. I think we have the capability of doing it in-house, basically, if we wanted to use Nicole to do it, to do like a mini newsletter each, water mailing, if that's the direction the board wants to go. We don't know how much the printing is going to cost. Does the board want to get a quote on how much the printing would be for, quarterly, obviously, or monthly? It actually would be monthly, maybe 1 or 2 page newsletter to insert into the water bill. Is that something you want to do?
You wanna do it monthly?
Well, it's going to be monthly because as the water bills go out, then
We've
we
seen newsletter for 3 months.
yes, that's right.
So we do
That's right.
it, and then we do it 3 months later, but for 3 months.
That's right, the same
newsletter
newsletter,
will go
right,
over.
that's right.
So I'll get my newsletter in January, they'll get it in February, and you'll get it in March.
Right. But hopefully, we're proactive enough to have the information we want ahead of time.
3 months ahead.
It's better than we got now.
Yeah. Is that something? Oh, okay, so let me go to the devil's advocate I talked to you about, which I should have brought, I'm sorry, the newsletter from Crestwood. Oak Lawn just signed on to that too, okay? But, here's the pluses and minuses, and I should have brought if you want to see it, I'll show it to you. But it's basically would cost us roughly $5,500 to $6,000 to produce it each month or each quarter, whatever we want to do. Now, of course, that's minus the advertising we would get, okay? And their argument is because there's Crestwood, Midlothian, and Oak Lawn in it now, that national advertisers, if we do it monthly, will be very willing to advertise it. We get 80% of their advertising revenue. The only trouble is we take the risk here because,
We don't know until we sign.
yeah, it's $6,000. It's a great thing. They do a great job. They probably would take a little bit of the load off of us as far as doing the newsletter. It's not just about the village of Midlothian, it's about the community of Midlothian, schools, park district, so on and so forth. But if you want me to get you, I'll show you the copy of the Fanning newsletter, and you can decide. But to me, that's a heck of a nut a heck of a risk to take at this point in our lives when we're, looking. I'm still looking under every cubby hole to try to see if we got any money there. What do you think?
That sounds like in-house is cheaper.
Well, it's definitely cheaper, it's just
The other one.
logistics of it.
The other way,
Let's do it
I'm sorry, I didn't give you the physical, which I will next week, I promise. But the bottom line, and which, so we don't have to decision on it tonight, but, I'll get the price of how much a newsletter would cost us to do it monthly, like a 2-page newsletter. And,
2-page meaning front and back.
front and back,
So,
yes,
so it wouldn't add to the bulk.
that's right. And, yeah, we can't be over 1 ounce.
Right.
But the bottom line is, if you think that it's going to be something you're interested in, I'll give you this Fanning product, which is a good product, but
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and I don't know. But so just keep that in the back of your mind, which way you want to do it. We'll get a quote from in-house, including the time that it takes to produce it. So, HR consultant, we're working on, Mr. Gleason's working on the contract. We talked to him about 10 days ago, and he's working on that. Something for the board to consider is, what we want to do is of course, the board wants to direct which projects the HR consultant we want the HR consultant to do, and does the board want to do that piece by piece, or do they want to just delegate, put a priority on that, on the projects, and just delegate a person to director, you know, whoever that might be, trustee or somebody, you know, from the management? Or, you know, does we want to do it project by project, approve it each time by vote? Number two would be, who signs off on what she's done? What kind, in other words, Carl has a great word, which is a buzzword now. What are the deliverables? How do you, how do you want to know what kind of deliverables do you want out of each project? How are you going to know that she's done the work, and who's going to sign off on that? So be thinking about that ahead of time. Hopefully, in a short time, Bill will have his end done, and we'll get it started. Again, I think this should be a budgeted project, though. It shouldn't be just, okay, you know, wow, we need this and we need that. I mean, this should be part of the 2017 budget. We can sort of a general figure based on what we think for the start of it is, and then see how that comes out. It shouldn't be just, well, you know, this and that and this and that. It should be the same regulations as any department has to do. Non-union health insurance payment. The public, we discussed informally, I think, or we talked about, should we have non-union health insurance copay on the same plane, same schedule as the public works contract, which would mean that, you know, they would get reimbursed, if they would get reimbursed the same for HMO, but less if they were in other plans. Except HSA, well, HSA would be the same too, yeah.
HMO, HSA
yeah.
is, that would stay the same.
Right.
Village portion
Right.
80,
But if they're
employee 20.
right, if they're PPO, they would be reimbursed less. I do have serious concerns about that. Number one is I do have concerns about that a lot of these people that aren't making a lot of money. Number two is, and I think Kathy's idea for her work was fantastic, that you did it on sort of a sliding scale. Didn't you talk about that before? It was sort of a sliding scale based on income
For
health insurance,
Yeah,
Your premium.
for
Yeah.
the copay.
right.
But number two is, you know, Obamacare has a maximum contribution that the employee can make. So you have to make sure you don't violate that either. So I'm gonna ask Maggie in her spare time to look at that and see, make sure that if that's the case, we wouldn't be in violation of the Affordable Health Care Act. Does the, you know, and then the board has to decide if we are not in violation of that, we wouldn't be in violation of that, let's put it that way. Does the board want to go forward with this in some way, shape, or form? You know, what does the board feel about that? You know, that's.
I'm not
and the
sure
mayor.
that it's, I don't know, I mean, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 in the police department, 1, 2, 3 in the fire department. I mean, I don't know, the numbers, I don't
And
know.
then administration.
But it's in the public works contract now.
Right, their whole department.
Right. Except the non-union people.
So Public Works Management has the same deal then as?
No.
No, they're separate.
No,
Okay.
they're not.
That's management and,
So that's another 3 people then too.
right. So, I mean,
So I think if we decided to do this, in fairness, we wouldn't do this until renewal time, so that the employees, if the board, at least that would be my opinion, if the board decides to move forward with this. And there was an email from the attorney about this.
Yes,
They
and
should
he was
probably
fine.
share
He
it
was
with
fine.
everybody.
he was fine.
Yeah, we ran it, we received an opinion from the attorney. But my feeling would be if the board decides to move in this direction, that we don't do it until December 1st. Because that way the employees could take that into consideration when making their selection for a healthcare plan.
I'd like to see the numbers, you know, what it would save us, realistic saving.
Right, what it would save us, and then make sure we're in compliance, and then the board, it's the board's
Makes a
fault, and
decision.
the mayor, who we need your opinion. say that you're off for scheduling, we don't really have enough people in the front office to handle all the Saturdays. We thought we did, we thought when this was all set up, we had, but one person is not in the rotation anymore. And so, the idea was that we would have one person could take a Saturday per month. We don't have it, we're one short. And what makes it even worse, if you're during vehicle sticker time or other busy times, you might want extra people there. We don't have that.
Why are we one short?
There's only 3 people in the office now.
Well, Janet volunteered to do this, but Maggie thinks your time is more valuably spent working with her right now and not working, using those 3 hours, 2 per month and working on a Saturday. So,
Wasn't the building department clerks supposed to be part of that rotation for Saturday?
yes, and there, here's the thing. Gwen doesn't do this every day. And that system up there, I don't care what you say, it's a little complicated. I mean, you have to make sure you know which account, you're taking this and that, and then you have to make her, and then you balance every, she's gotta do this, she's gotta balance, and so on and so forth. If you wanted to do that, you would have to take her out of the building department for at least a few days or a day a week and train her how to do this. And right now, I don't know if that's the ideal time to do this for the new building superintendent that she probably needs to pay attention to, so.
I think when the switch with Maggie going back to helping, with Janet going back to help Maggie,
Yeah.
if you remember, we had asked to get a part-timer working
Yes.
20 hours a week.
Yes.
That would work they would work Tuesday through Saturday.
Yes.
So that we would have all our Saturdays covered by this one person. They knew their job was consistent to work on Saturdays.
Mhm.
And then the board chose not to allow us to hire that extra person.
Mhm.
So that's where we've come shorthanded.
Can I just make a suggestion? I mean, can we try to get Janet in that rotation once a month? Saturdays aren't always extremely busy, and she might be able to do some of her other work during that time.
Well, we can try to talk to
Talk to Maggie about
Maggie,
that.
Treasurer Britton about this, but she's the supervisor for Janet now, more or less, not the administration. The other thing is, that doesn't account for extra people. I mean, if you're going to, basically, especially around vehicle sticker time, you're gonna need extra people on Saturday. There's no way you're gonna get away with one person. And Maureen actually thought, if it was Saturday before the due date for water, would like to have 2 people there too, because sometimes that gets a little sticky too. So, I don't know where the board wants. I'll find out more about Maggie and Janet, what's going on with that, but.
Do we have the number of transactions that happen on Saturdays? I think that would be really helpful, if we could look at the number of transactions on every Saturday.
And is there a possibility that we could offer some of the other clerks in the other departments, some possibility of overtime pay or extra pay to
Well, I don't think
work on a
you
Saturday?
want to pay them overtime. It would be cheaper to hire a part-time clerk.
The way I count it, there's 10 people up in that front office, total. We've never had 10 people. Max of 8. No, we have 10.
Cool.
We still have
One.
enough people that cover 3 hours on Saturday.
We have 3 people in
We have
the,
people that don't want to cover Saturday.
we have 3 people in the front office.
I'm talking total, we've always had, count the whole front office as a whole.
Which is, what would the extra people at? When? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I'm counting the whole front office, the building department, the county, whatever. There's 8 people. Now we have 10. No one can fill in on a Saturday. Once a month.
Honestly, you could use Gwen. Is that, I guess I'm asking the board, is that the best use of her time? That's all I'm saying.
Well, Cheryl's back too, so.
Well, that doesn't take away from Gwen's job. Cheryl and Gwen's job are two different animals.
So you're volunteering to work 3 hours on Saturday? is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'll take it in my business. But I mean, the board has, I think, you know, Maureen brought it up to me, then the board has, and the mayor and whatever, we have to come up with an idea. If you know, mayor, you're saying the part-timer is the best solution for that, then.
That's like, when we did the research for it, and that's what we were thinking, because, you know, at one time you had Kim, you had 4 full-time, and, I'm sorry, 3 full-time and 2 part-times up there. And they did the rotations and everything. And, like I said, we thought the best solution would be that we hire somebody straight up, letting them know, your job is gonna be Tuesday through Saturdays, you're gonna work every Saturday for 3 hours. And we thought we could keep them easily around 20 hours a week. That would alleviate a lot of, like midday pressure on the office, because that's usually when we get the busiest.
Right.
And then get rid of the Saturday problem with everybody having to try to rotate the Saturdays.
And, you know, there's a side comment here. I don't think the best use of Nicole's time is the front window. I think she can do a lot of different things that would be better use of her time too. So if this part-time person can do the front window, which I think that's what you're saying.
Right, that's
I
what
think
she
that's
should be hired to
I think
do.
that's a better use of Nicole's time too.
But you know, I think, again, we're implementing all of these things, the cash drawers, the extra drawers, the currency counter. We've talked about doing the scanner, we gotta get back to that. So we're implementing all of these efficiencies, which is going to allow them to be more efficient up there. So, I don't want to go out and hire somebody if we don't really need that person. I think what Gary said, we need to really look at this strongly. We've done all of these things to cut down on the amount of time that they've got to spend doing things. So we need to, you know, are we gonna hire somebody that's not gonna have enough work to do during the week? That's my concern. Especially when we're doing all of these things to make things more efficient.
Well, the issue mainly is Saturday.
For the 3 hours.
This is mainly Saturday. I mean, I
Well, what it
sort of
sounds
understand
like
what you're
is
saying.
it's one Saturday a month, basically, for 3 hours.
Yeah, so who's gonna work it? That's the big problem.
And we gotta figure that out.
Okay.
Is there a possibility of us not being open on Saturday and spending hours like on Wednesdays? Would that might be more efficient, because then you have all the people readily available?
That was tried for a time and it wasn't very popular.
With the.
There's a lot of towns that are closed on Saturdays, a lot. Now, given that, the mayor's campaign pledge was to open on Saturday. So I would say we probably should just forget about that one and go forward with trying to make Saturday work.
We'll continue to work with Maggie and the girls in the front office and see what we can come up with.
Okay, all right, and that's all.
Okay. Under my business, I will be looking for the approval for the February 17th and 24th. You'll be getting the March 6th and March 13th, I think, if those are the right dates. The 2 first ones in March also, but you'll have those by the end of this week. And then,
Okay.
so I was looking for approval for that for next week.
All right, then I'll send you the, it says G&L, electronic services would be G&L.
Okay.
I already sent those
Yeah,
corrections.
she already
sent
I already
corrections.
sent a number of corrections, and
Right.
that was one of them.
Thank you.
Okay, and then, I don't know, I thought we were looking to do the approval of the special use ordinance for the Merlin property with the completion of phase 1, but I don't know if we're there.
Oh, I think we have to do it tonight.
Okay?
All right,
I
the right thing to do. for-
I think,
Okay.
based on the misinformation that was provided to that gentleman.
Okay, well, I'd be looking for someone to make a motion to approve the special use ordinance for the Merlin with completion of the phase 1.
Okay, but actually, he's gonna complete the phase 1 before.
I don't care if
He doesn't have to.
One.
He doesn't have to.
He didn't have to, you know what, I will make the motion to approve the ordinance that was presented, I believe it was at the March 23rd meeting.
Okay?
So I'll second it.
Oh,
And are you gonna call for comment?
Yes.
Because I would like to make a comment. I feel terrible for this businessman. We received an email from the clerk informing us the day, I believe it was the day after, that we would have a phase one. He would have a phase one completed. So that we could approve, if we could turn this meeting into a special meeting. And I was sickened by that. I was able to get the phone number for the owner of the property. And I called him that Thursday evening at about 6 p.m. to try to stop the phase one. And explained to him that that was not the board's intention, that he had to have a phase one done. The board's intention was that he would have a condition of his special use would be a phase one through the $400,000 US EPA brownfield assessment grant that I have been beating the drum about since 2012. He couldn't stop it. It was already in process. So this poor business owner is out $1,500 and we have the funding to pay for it. And I spoke to him for about 20 or 25 minutes and I was extremely apologetic. And he said, it's not your fault, and he appreciated my efforts. But I wanted to share with the board, I did get a thank you from him. So I know we try to support our property owners and our business owners, and this is not what the board instructed, but I did reach out to him, try to make amends. It was too late, so.
I think I was told the property owner was here at that meeting.
She
Yes.
was at the meeting, yes.
All I gotta say is, there's a property owner that's asking, that's where.
I didn't know he was here. I had no idea he was, I had no idea who he was. Otherwise, I would have reached out to him.
So what are we doing?
The ordinance for the special use at the Merlin's.
That was on the March
March 23rd.
23rd agenda.
Without any conditions.
Correct.
Well, he's already.
He already wasted his money.
And then, but obviously he's okay with allowing his property to be on the list to look at, so if it does need a phase two.
Well, what I will do with him, I haven't seen the phase one. I could provide the phase one to our environmental consultants, who are the professionals, and if their assessment is that he would need a phase two, I believe we could offer him a phase two through the US EPA brownfield assessment grant at no charge.
Okay.
Can I also, just as a point of information, how much property taxes does this gentleman pay?
Approximately $45,000-$50,000 a year.
$45,000 a year.
That's why he needs to get a tenant in there.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
let's do it.
Did he not get it appealed? Did he not appeal it? I mean,
This was our very lengthy discussion that evening. I asked him, do you appeal your taxes? And he said he does, and when he does it, it requires him to also get an appraisal to justify the decrease in his assessed valuation. So he is appealing his taxes every year. But again, I just really thought, I didn't expect this, but he really appreciated my taking the time to talk to him. And I also said that the Board of Trustees is here to help him and answer any questions he might have.
Okay. All right, I have a first and second. Roll call.
Trustee Kreis,
Aye.
trustee Ivan,
Aye.
trustee Tilloway,
Aye.
trustee LaRue.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, do you have anything?
I have nothing.
Okay. At 8:54, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.